Sims, let's go.
Hello everyone, it's your girl Miracle Sims and you're watching the GSL Talk Show. Tonight we're going to be chatting with Mr. Jake Thurston, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the GSL Talk Show. I am here with Mr. Jake Thurston. How are you?
I'm well. I can't complain. It's a balmy 40 degrees outside in Vermillion, South Dakota today, so we're calling that a win. It could be way worse.
Well, there you go. I mean, I know. We just talked about a second ago. This is way in the future right now, so it might be kind of weird. I was talking about the weather.
True. Yeah. If you're listening to this midsummer, you're like, "Where are you?" No, this
Right.
currently.
Right, but I mean, it's been all kinds of things going on with this first few months of this year. It's just been like cold, hot. It's been everything.
It's been nuts.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So is that where you're from?
Yep. We're living here in Vermillion, South Dakota. So that's in the southeast corner of the state. So where there's that little tail in the state, that's where it is. Apparently we're known as the Miami of South Dakota. I have no clue really what that means or how we got that name, but it's a great town here. It's a small town of about 12,000 people with a university of 9,000 students who come here. So small town with a huge university. So it makes for a really awesome demographic for us to minister to and to live, and we love it.
Hey, sounds cool. Is it like a beach town, you would say?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we're close to the Missouri River, but that's probably the closest beach we got around here. It's very flat. There's truly, like, I have no clue why we're known as the Miami of South Dakota. No beaches, no warmth, other than the lots of the humidity that comes in the summer. But hey, we embrace it,
Yeah, I was going to try to guess for you, but I guess I would know. Unless city vibes, no.
Nope.
Okay, well,
it beats me, Miracle.
Well, I mean, we'll go with it. Awesome. I haven't been there yet, but who knows? We'll see what we'll do.
Sure.
So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself then?
Yeah, so I am a pastor and church planter here at a church called Wesleyan Church. Because Vermillion is a college town, it's home to USD, the University of South Dakota. We have a high student population here. Vermillion is 60% of the population is under the age of 30. The median age is 23 years old. It's just, our city's a hub for the next generation. So when we were really wrestling with the call to church plant, to start a new congregation from the ground up, I've always had a huge heart for college students and young adults and just that season of life. And so we knew when we were trying to pick that location, Vermillion was it, because out of the 18 churches in our city, 2 of them are reaching students really, really well. So we moved here in June of 2021. We launched services late August of 2022. And that's just been awesome. So we're close to 3 years old now, and we haven't looked back. So that's awesome. Love ministering to students, young adults. I'm married to my beautiful bride, Casey. We just celebrated 6 years a couple weeks ago. So we're stoked for that. And we have 3 kids. Amelia is 4, Adeline is 2, and Beckett is 2 months. So we just added a third to our family. So that's awesome. And then probably most recently is I wrote a book too. So a newly published author of a book called You Need Friends, Reclaim Your God-Given Design for Community, and Remedy Your Loneliness for Good. That's the subtitle. That's just a culmination of a 10-year-long research project, basically. So that's fresh on my mind with us just getting that launched out here soon. So we've been busy for sure between church planning, having children, and writing a book. My plate's been full, but that's kind of the 10,000 overview, or 10,000 foot overview of my life, I should say.
I mean, that is awesome. We definitely have a lot of things to talk about. topics and whatnot. Because I mean, I know it has to be a journey, unless the universities and whatnot may be faith based or something like that. I know it got to be a journey ministering to college students, just because. I mean, well, one, I've been seeing a lot of the YouTube stuff, so shout out to those people that's out there, like having debates with people and going to college campuses and
Huh?
doing that work, you know. But I don't know. It's so funny because I think about school, college, yes, but then also like my upbringing and grade school and all that type of stuff. And I just feel like all of it is just so different from what I experienced. So even now, I'm homeschooling our son just because I feel like what I'm witnessing is like, I don't know if I want him in the mix of all that. So let me just,
Mhm.
I became more hands on than I ever thought I would be as a mom. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
Uh-huh.
But when I think about college in particular, I mean, yeah, that was a formative time for me. Even in spite of things, I feel like being in a whole different. It, I mean, maybe it was that way too, but I mean, I went to like a small college, so maybe I didn't witness or experience a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing now. When it
Sure.
comes to, I know people say indoctrination and stuff like that a lot, but like, I mean, maybe I might have had some teachers that was like saying their point of view, but I feel like it was more so like whatever I was studying, I learned that, like their opinions that much, you know what I mean, that type of stuff. And so anyway, like I could imagine like what it's like to be targeting this specific group. Um,
Totally.
I mean, so I guess we could start there. I know you got a lot of great, amazing things to tell us about. I mean, marriage, your being a father, your book and whatnot as well. But I mean, we can start there since you did. So how's it
Sure.
going?
Yeah, like wait, how's which part going?
Like ministering to the
Ministry.
students in
Perfect.
college. And,
It's been so fruitful.
mm,
And because one of the ways how I'm encouraged and inspired, even in my own faith, is being around college students who remind me of that season in my life when I had a really vibrant faith in Jesus before life got too complicated,
mm,
with full-time jobs and marriage and kids and all the ups and downs that come with that. So on one hand, man, like some of our students who are just so sold out to the Lord
mm,
is incredible. So that's super fun, and getting to work with them is so, so good. But I mean, one of the reasons why we're really geared towards that demographic, you look at all the stats, and Gen Z right now, they're the least religiously affiliated generation to date, because they've been raised by parents who were the least religiously affiliated, even amongst those demographics. Gen Xers, Gen Zers are often the offspring of Gen Xers, and there's all that stuff that's going on there, and they I read a book that described how Gen Zers have it easier than any other generation, but harder than any other generation. They are
mm,
connected more than anybody else, but they are lonelier than anybody else. They have access to more education than anybody else, but they have way more stress with the workplace than anybody else. Like they kind of live in this paradox of they have it so good and yet so hard at the same time, especially being caught in the midst of the mental health epidemic right now, the loneliness epidemic right now. For them in particular, there's a book out there also called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. I recommend that to anybody who wants to understand more about what's going on with teenagers and Gen Zers in general right now, because of just the high anxiety rates and things like that, and just worldviews and all those things. And a lot of it comes down to smartphones, but there's so much more involved with that, between parenting styles, culture, worldviews, and things like that. So you see that come up a lot, and that's something that I'm having to remind myself that, like, um, you know, 24 is the new 18, essentially, where because of education is kind of delaying adolescence a bit, where you don't feel like you're a full adult until you're 28 years old after you finish grad school and you're getting married and might maybe looking into a house. Whereas just several decades ago, it was 18. All you needed was a high school diploma to live life, and you can start working a full-time job and everything. Um, so there's a lot of those things that's even just so different relating with them as it was when, I was in college just 10 years ago. Yeah. So, but I'm passionate about it, and because I think if our nation's going to see revival and just kind of a reawakening of a church, I believe it starts with this next generation. So it's just cool to be on the
mm.
front lines with them.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, do you find yourself in a lot of debates?
No, actually, not really. Like and I don't know if it's just our part of the state. USD actually does a really great job, I feel like, of balancing viewpoints. Sometimes you have universities that go all the way on either side, but USD is very good at balancing that. And
Mm,
um, And honestly, like most, if I ever bring up the conversation of faith or our perspective of religion, most are like, okay, that's cool, good for you. Then go on about their own ways of life. Or if they do have disrespect, or not disrespect, if they do disagree with me in anything, they won't tell me and they'll just leave. Is often what it is. Or, you know, ghosting is the term that they use. They just peel out. They're like, nope, not for me. That's more the extent of it. But if I do have a good chance to have conversation, they're often very willing to listen and to hear all those viewpoints and stuff like that. But no debates, thankfully. I'm not a good debater. I get anxious about that. So
Well, I mean, that's good. That God knows the cross you can bear, right? The burden that you can carry. So perhaps He's shielding you from that. I mean, because I definitely see a lot of that on, especially on social media, which probably could be the reason it's sensationalized. You see more, because of course you see more of the negativity than the positive. But you know, I just obviously that was my one first question when it comes to you hear about college and stuff like that. You're like, oh, like it must be rough.
yeah, it's way more mild, I think, than especially when you watch one of those videos, it keeps suggesting them to you, and so then you assume this is happening every day at every campus. And it's like, oh, maybe it happens a few times a semester, but or at least here at USD, when you think of all the universities out there in the country, the University of South Dakota is probably not near the top. So a lot of people are coming out here and doing that. But we're the home of the coyotes, by the way. It's not coyotes. You don't pronounce it coyotes out here. I had to learn that very quick. It's the coyotes, or just yotes for short. Isn't that funny?
Okay. Learn something new every day, man.
Exactly.
So am I right to understand? Because you say you were born and raised there in South Dakota.
I was born and raised in Indiana, actually. So I was a Hoosier growing up, whatever that means. We don't know what that means. But I went to school at Indiana Wesleyan University to study to be a pastor, and then moved out to South Dakota for my first job as a pastor at a church in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Was there for 3 years. Went back to Indiana Wesleyan for a couple of years before moving back to Vermillion to church plant.
Okay, so you would say that basically ministry pretty much led you to where you are today.
Absolutely.
We're understanding, right? I
Yeah.
mean, now, were you always raised? I mean, obviously, because you went to school and you had this, I guess, you knew your calling to go and get the training for pastoral work, or
Mhm.
how was that for you?
Yeah, I've grown up in the local church my whole life, the Wesleyan denomination in particular, which is known as the largest denomination that people have never heard of. That's what I've heard. It's very small, branched off from the Methodist Church in the 1800s. Um, but yeah, always have grown up in the church. Faith was always an active part of my life, and it was at a Wesleyan youth convention as a sophomore in high school during one of the morning rallies that we had, where the whole message was about the call to vocational ministry, basically laying your career down on the altar and saying you're going to devote it to the local church and be a pastor. And I just knew without a doubt that that's what the Holy Spirit was calling me to do. And some teens go up there just because it's just an emotional moment and you don't really know what you're doing. But like I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this is what I had to do. And and haven't looked back since.
Right, this is good fruit. Like when the seeds are planted in the young age, we see the
Mhm.
fruit blossoming and blooming. So I see. Hopefully, my son will have such things to say when
Sure.
he becomes a man. You know, because I'm trying my best to lay those seeds now. I feel like even me being here doing the things I'm doing is thanks to the seeds of my mom. So shout out, mom. Hey, mom.
Let's go, mom.
You know, so look, good seeds will flourish, man. That's what I'm hearing and seeing right now in this conversation. So
Mhm.
that's encouraging.
So good.
So I mean, well, tell me about this wife of yours and whatnot, because I mean, the family had to start somewhere, right?
Yes. Yes. She is my my everything, my light, my joy. So we were set up on a blind date. Okay. We had some mutual friends. Casey attended my friend's small group, and I knew them through the church that I was pastoring at. And I was bemoaning my singleness to them. I was just like, nothing's working. My love life's all over the place. You know, I was like 24, 25 years old at this point. Uh, And Nate and Sherry, they're our mutual friends. We're talking. I was riding in the car with them, and Sherry just asked me, "Jay, can I set you up on a blind date?" And I'm like, "Why the heck not? What could possibly go wrong? Let's give this a shot, you know?"
Yeah.
So she finally sent me Casey's number, and I sent her a text like, "Hey, Sherry, let me know that you might be interested in this thing. Going, let's go on a date. Let's just see what happens." So she knows the dates. I don't have these dates memorized. I should learn them. But we went on our first date at a coffee shop mid-July of 2018. And we kind of just went on some casual dates here or there, just getting to know each other. And we became official mid-August of 2018. We were then engaged 2 months later at the end of October. I think it was like October 27th. And we were married 5 months later. March 23rd of 2019. So from our first date, barely having talked to each other at all before then, to marriage was 8 months total. And we've been going strong for 6 years since. So pretty unorthodox, but we love our story. She was a pediatrics nurse, so she loves kids, worked in the hospital for some time. And then when we moved out here, she worked as a school nurse for our elementary school here in Vermillion. But now she's actually, when she's done with maternity leave, it's summer vacation forever. She's going to be staying home moving forward and pouring a lot of time and energy into her gut health business to try to promote, healthy digestion and holistic health and stuff like that. So.
Well, shout out to her for her entrepreneurial endeavors, and congratulations on that awesome love story. I love to hear love stories and whatnot. So that's great. And I mean, it's amazing too, because again, it just shows you that God can do it any way He want to do it. I think one of my most recent guests was talking about the arranged marriage that they had or whatever, and so God can do this thing in whatever way. And I get it. I was in my 20s doing the same thing. Like, Lord, where's my husband? Okay, look, I know what you said about waiting for marriage and all those things. So where is he? And doing the whole thing. And that's what led me to where we are today with my, this platform. But yeah, it can be tough, especially when you don't want to be single, because there's some people that's totally fine with being single. But if you're like, but I want love and marriage and all the things, it's hard to be single, man. And then be a Christian too. Oh God, like
for sure. Oh my goodness. Well, and the church almost like worships marriage to the point, and there's a certain extent where if you're not married by a certain age, you're like, what's wrong with you? Come on, like, you got a girlfriend yet? You got a boyfriend yet? Like, so there's almost added pressure within Christian culture, that makes it feel like there's something wrong with you if you're not married sooner than later. Definitely felt that, during my years of singleness as well.
I mean, well, isn't that like? I mean, I get the pressure part. I mean, I can see that, but I'm wondering, where does it come from? So I'm thinking, like, could it be that like people either they know the toughness of like maintaining purity, so they're like, hey, go ahead and get married, or is it like, they actually are rushing you to marriage, or be like, oh, you're getting old, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it could be so many things, I guess.
For sure. I think yes, and everything in between. It depends on the couple, depends on the church, depends on even probably the part of the country, where you're growing up in. And maybe it's just like, you're waiting for that partner because you just want that intimate form of relationship. Maybe you're just, got all the sexual desires and you just want to be able to finally put them into practice. Paul talks about that in 1 Corinthians 7, right? Or even you're just seeing all your peers moving off and getting married, and you're just kind of doing the comparison game too, and feeling like you're behind the 8 ball in comparison to everyone else. There's so many reasons, I think.
Yeah, that's so true. I was wondering, like, do you feel like now your significant other, right, your wife, do you feel like she was in the same boat when you met, and that kind of she was feeling the same way about like, where's my love and all that type of stuff, or was she like in a good place about it when you guys met, and it's like, oh, I'm open, but whatever.
Yeah, so she's 3.5 years older than I am. So when we met, I was 25 and she was 28. So she had lived a little bit more life than me. She was a little bit more established than me. I was still getting my feet on the ground, figuring out this whole adulting thing. And she came to a point where, one, she didn't just know everything that she was looking for. Like she had the kind of her list, I guess you could say, or at least expectations of who she was looking for. And I guess I checked all those boxes. I don't know. Just kidding. But she was already resolved with that. But second, like, there was kind of that season for her, and she would tell you this, where She was wondering, like, why are things just not working out? Praying to God, like, why have I not met my future husband? All of my other friends are literally like what we just talked about. Like she felt that. But she eventually came to a point where she just handed it over to God and said, you know what? Why am I worrying about this? If it's meant to happen, it's going to happen when it needs to. And, and people are just flabbergasted at how quickly our story went. But like in retrospect, and even looking at some of the early conversations we had as a couple, she said something that blew my mind. And I tell all of our couples that we do premarital counseling with today these exact same words, that at the end of the day, as long as you are right with God and you have all the major foundational core values of your life and what you believe in common, you can make anything else work. Everything else is just a matter of working around it and figuring it out. But if you are on the same page with who God is, raising your family, you have same expectations for that, your outlook on life is similar, your motivations are similar, like you got the big rock solid foundation set, personalities, interests, hobbies, all those things, you can find workarounds and you can make work. It's not a decision of if it will work, will you make it work or not. And yeah, and since then, like we found, like, because you look at Casey and I, and we are polar opposites in so many ways. I'm one of the most extroverted people you'll ever meet. She's super introverted. I'm like, I love to go out and about and do all the things. She likes to stay home. If she could just stay at home for the rest of her life, she would. There's just some things on paper, it just seems like it should not work out. And there's sometimes, obviously, that brings up tensions. But we've chosen that it's worth working that out instead of trying to just be the same on everything. And in fact, it's way better, because if I didn't have her, I would be running myself into the ground, because it's very easy for me to overwork and not set good boundaries of rest. And just even getting in my head, like just everything about who she is perfectly balances me out and complements my weaknesses, where she is strong. So it's beautiful. It's worked amazing.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I'm sure you can tell us a little something about fatherhood. You three kids in, I only got the one. So, I mean, anything you want to share with us about that?
Where can I? Oh my goodness, we're still figuring this out. I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants every day. They say going from 2 to 3 kids is easier than 1 to 2, and I think I agree with that, because going from 1 to 2, like you have the shift from, we each can kind of take on parenting a kid like together. So it's like kind of 50-50, while one's putting them to bed, the other can fully have your time off and rest or something. You can trade off like that. Once when you get a second, you are then on 100% of the time. When you're taking care of one, you need to be taking care of the other. And Casey and I remember hitting that shift, and that was unreal. That was so hard. Did not think that was going to be as difficult as it was. But now as they're older, you move from 2 to 3, you move from man-to-man defense to zone defense, right? That's the image that's often used for it. And it's also so true. Beckett's easy one right now. It's still trying to parent a 4 and a 2-year-old toddler, while also having, this other baby in your arms. That's tricky. Beckett's been no problem. It's doing those other two. But just like, it is simultaneously the hardest thing I've ever done and the greatest thing I've ever done, being a dad, having kids. The days when they just, like, you want to rip your hair out, in the exact same day, they will blow your mind and just make you so proud, so it's the greatest joy. It's the greatest endeavor we've ever done. And I love them dearly. Yes. Any mind-blowing advice I could give you are all probably from books I read somewhere that's not original to me. But yeah, we adore it. It's awesome.
Well, he says, look, he recommends 10 out of 10, and he recommends
10 out of 10, highly recommend. I would not return them. I'm very pleased with the product that we got. So with all 3 of them.
That's totally good. I call my son annoyingly adorable for a reason.
Yes.
It's like he's the most crazy thing, but then you're like, it's so cute. I can't even really be mad at about it. Yeah, we can. I'm sure we can swap stories. We can sit here and just swap stories all the time.
How old's your son?
He's 6. Yeah,
6. So good.
And then, like I said, with us doing this, it's virtual public school, which I'm like, who knew that would be a thing back when I was growing up, like virtual public school. And I'm like, let's give it a go. And it's been, so I'm his quote unquote learning coach, right? And he still has a teacher and stuff that we do check-ins and all that type of stuff. But it's mostly just him, the computer, me, activities, that type of thing.
Mm.
And on one hand, it's like very rewarding, like you just said, like it's these awesome moments where I'm like, yo, you can read now. Like I can see, I see your progress of doing this or that, or I see that you really like math, and I kind of already know like what he knows, what he don't know. So even when we went to do like it was like a DDA they called it or something like that. It was like a mid test or something like that to do. And his teacher was telling me about he's mixing up his B's and P's. I'm like, I know, yeah, his
Mm.
M's and W's. Like for some reason he's mixing. I'm like W is up, M is down. Like we're doing that whole thing. But so being able to like be right there and knowing like or seeing the progression and stuff has been really cool. But then there are those moments where I think some of the most annoying moments was like the program will have me saying things to him repetitively or asking him the same questions. Like we'll click on another page and it's like the same question. So I ask it and he's like, I said da da da, like he's teaching me. And I'm like, I know how to do this already. Like you're not teaching me right now, So those times it's like, oh my gosh, kid, just answer the question.
I know.
But then other times he's we were doing circle time. And out of all the X words that they could give to represent X, they had Zephyrs.
What?
And I know, like X-ray, like xylophone, like Zephyrs as the word on the little circle time center thing. And I'm like, I was like, okay, kid, so it's Zephyrs. I'm teaching it to him. I'm like, this is Zephyrs. And so hearing him say Zephyrs and spelling it and all that, I was like,
man, you're raising a genius, is what I'm hearing.
Or like we was working on his affirmation. Okay, I'm getting back to you. I'm sorry. We got to get back to you and your books, right? One more kid story. So we were working on the church that we go to. They gave us at the beginning of the year, the school year. They gave like these little affirmation cards to the kids and whatnot, and there are like a lot of different Bible verses. So the first few weeks of us doing his school, right, we would start the day with him saying the affirmations. I'm a child of God. I'm a new creature in Christ Jesus. All those. It's like a long list, and so I would say them. He would repeat them. This kid can remember. It's memorized. It's memorized. Like even now, if I was like, I could probably tell you after the show, I'll just have him come in here and just say them. I was like, hey, say your affirmations. He'll say all of them in order, in the order he learned them in, and everything. And I'm like, and I think he learned it. I think he had it like after like a month or so.
Wow.
Because the first month I was just saying, I would say it, he would repeat it, and then after that he started just saying it on his own. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. You know what I mean? So I mean, all of that type of stuff. I know that if he was in a quote unquote regular school, he wouldn't be getting that. If that makes, you know what I mean? Like he wouldn't get the Bible affirmations and all this type of stuff. So it's been one of those things where I'm like, I really do appreciate this and I like it, but at the same time, I'm like, ugh, am I gonna be able to do this? Like, how is this gonna really look? I joke every now and then. I'm like, are you going to? I said one day you're gonna be like, I want to go to regular school. He's like, no. I like homeschool. I'm like, you don't even know. You don't know. Whatever. Yeah, right. You're gonna come to me like, oh, mom, I actually probably want to try school now. Okay.
We can play fun games.
Yeah, whatever. But no, I mean, well, we're so active at the church. I mean, because I went to the church I go to as well and whatnot, and so we're always there. So he sees hundreds of kids every week. So I'm like, I'm not worried about him socially per se, but yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. So far, so good. So far, so good.
That's great. We'll keep it up.
Yeah, I'm trying. So, I mean, now that we got all this family stuff out of the way, then, I mean, well, let's get to this book, man. Obviously, you have been encouraged and inspired to create a book.
Yes.
And things of that nature. You're trying to look, we just talked about social and whatnot. Sounds like you're trying to get the people social out here, get some friendships happening.
That's right. That's right. I got a copy right here if people can see
there it
is. So you need friends, reclaim your God-given design for community, and remedy your loneliness for good. So
nice. What's the inspiration?
So I've always grown up just kind of with this radar for those who are excluded or on the fringes. Like even when I was in youth group, I was always just aware of the kid who was just kind of out there doing his own thing or is by himself. And I would always kind of just go out there and talk with that person, or try to make sure that if I was ever leading group discussions or I had a team, I wanted everyone to make sure they felt like they could belong. That's always been my heartbeat. And then, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Strengths Quests or Strength Finder or any of those personality tests that tell you your top 5 strengths. So one of my top 5 strengths, according to this test, is includer. So I just love bringing people together for a common purpose. So that's been hardwired into my DNA. And then it was when I was in my master's degree, working on my master's program in 2015, I stumbled upon two crazy ideas, two ideas that just blew my mind. And the first was when I read in a book somewhere that America is amongst the loneliest nation in the world, and that we are enduring a loneliness epidemic right now. And this was 5 years before the pandemic. This was, 10 years before. I feel like you hear the conversation around loneliness at epidemic levels all over the place now. This was in 2015. So I'm like, that's insane. That doesn't make sense, right? Especially because of just my heart for belonging and friendship and everything. I was like, that's crazy. But then in the same semester, I stumbled upon this topic called spiritual friendship. And spiritual friendship has this long running tradition in church history, over centuries worth of church history and theologians talking about it. But one particular church father or a monk from the 12th century, his name is Saint Alred of the monastery of Revaux that was in England back in the day. He wrote this treatise called Spiritual Friendship. And it was this most beautiful articulation of the kind of relationship we have with others and with God, especially when it is founded on a mutual pursuit of Jesus. It was just so good. And it blew my mind, So I had this crazy thought. How could the church remedy our world's loneliness epidemic through the rediscovery of spiritual friendship? And I thought that made a pretty great master's thesis topic, let me tell you. So I went on to write that for that final project, and it just captured me, like where I felt like I have been placed on this earth specifically for this message of trying to get people to realize how they are designed for community, the impacts that loneliness brings to your mind, bodies, and souls, and how the local church can really try to bring those bonds and connections to cultivate a deeper and stronger sense of intimacy with our friends than what our surface level day-to-day friendships are, if we even have them, So that I would go on to write blog posts about that, and I gave some keynote presentations on it and went on to get my doctorate of ministry over this topic. And I just finished that this last year. So 10 years of research all over this topic of spiritual friendship and the local church and loneliness and everything. And it culminates in this book here. This is the result of all of that. And I, just have that huge heart to see people's loneliness remedied and their friendships raised to new heights in Jesus. So
that's awesome. And well, first of all, I guess I need to correct myself, Dr. J.
I guess you could call me that, Reverend Dr.
Reverend Dr. J. But yeah, man. Okay, well that's awesome. I actually feel like I've been. It seems like confirmation in some ways. I feel like recently, I think maybe the pastor was speaking about this at church yesterday. But basically, the importance of fellowship, right? The importance of believers coming together and things of that nature. And so, I mean, obviously, the early church, it said that they got together like daily and stuff like that. And we can barely get together weekly. A lot of people feel like they don't need church and need that type of fellowship and things of that nature as well. But obviously, I'm sure your studies and your research has told us differently, or has it? I don't know. Is this any of these questions answered? Like, do we need to go to church? Or
yes, absolutely. So I have a whole chapter on it. Actually, chapter 8 is called The Brothers and Sisters You Didn't Know You Had. Because we live in a radically individualistic culture, right? I mean, that's most Western society, but the United States in particular has been labeled by sociologists as a radically individualist culture. When the remainder of the world currently is and always has been collectivist. And what that means is you don't understand yourself as just kind of like who you are in separation of the social context and how can you stand out from everyone, right? That's kind of the classic definition of an individualistic culture. It's all about you. You make your life happen. You pursue your dreams, and we love that. There's so many benefits that come with individualism, but collectivism is all about how you are a natural part of the group. You do not understand yourself in separation of others, but rather you understand yourself and how you contribute to your groups. So, whether that's your community or even your nation of origin, or more so, your family was the most important group that you could belong to. That continues to be the way how the majority of the world works. And that was especially the way how first century Palestine worked and how the culture functioned and that Jesus was born into. And so when he's calling his disciples to come and follow me, he's basically saying, leave your group of, leave your family group and come join my new family group. And that was radical for people to do. And you see constantly through the Gospels, Jesus talks about how, if you don't hate your mother and father and brother, and sister in comparison to me, or you need to leave your family to come and follow me, he's making really huge hyperbolic claims, overstatements in a way, to just really draw this distinction that when you join the church, you're not just joining an event that you attend weekly. You're not just going to consume content to make you feel better each week, or even just to learn truths about God. You're joining a family. You're joining a family. And this was so central to the first century church and on through, let's just say the 1500s at some point, when individualism really became popular in the West, that it was understood that salvation meant joining God's family. That salvation wasn't just this personal thing that saved you from your sins. That is certainly true. But the Bible never talks about you receiving a personal salvation where it's just about between you and God. That's implied. But what is always implied is that when you are saved by God, you also get his family. And at the end of the day, there's no such thing as an only child in God's family. You have brothers and sisters. You need to get to know them. And, for us to be lonely Christians who can just go to church whenever we want, when it's convenient, like an unchurched Christian was just unheard of in the first century when the church started. There was no concept of that. It was impossible to do. But now in our individualistic culture, it is possible. We do it all the time, where you just simply attend whenever it makes you feel good. You opt out when it's not benefiting you anymore. If you don't happen to have other week plans, then maybe you can go to church. But church is so much more than just a sermon. You can listen to the music whenever you want now. You can hop on and listen to a much better preacher than me on YouTube or on Spotify, because I'm not that great. And you basically can make up your own personalized church service wherever you are. But in so doing, you will never receive a hug from another brother or sister to console you in their pain. You will never be known. You will never be seen when you continually hide yourself from what the body of Christ was designed to be. A group of surrogate brothers and sisters found in that mutual love of Jesus. So it's just not an option. We think we can do it. That's a result of our westernized individualistic culture seeping its way into the church. And so one of my hopes is not only we have these deepened spiritual friendships, but a deepened commitment to the church too. And for us to prioritize that. What if we rearranged our weekend plans so that we could be back in time for church, instead of letting that be the thing that just gets slashed from our to-do list when things get too busy,
There you have it, friends. They're like, oh, he's a pastor. Of course he's going to say that.
Right, I know.
But hey, do the research for yourself there. Look, read about it for yourself and see. But what I've read has confirmed that as well. So
good. I'm not saying this in a vacuum.
Yeah. Okay. So how was the book going? How has it been received?
Yeah, the book's been going really, really well. So, it officially launched March 25th. So we're a couple of months out now from that happening. And I've just been so encouraged. I had a really strong launch team who helped get this out. And I'm just continuing to get the word out. And people have been talking about how they didn't even know that they needed to read this book. Perhaps they didn't think that they were lonely or that, their friends were good enough, but then realizing like, oh my goodness, like it put words to experiences and feelings and seasons in their life that they would never have labeled as loneliness, but they absolutely did. Now in hindsight. So for them to be able to realize like, whoa, I was lonelier than I expected. That's crazy. but to then view it in a whole new way of, loneliness isn't something that's like an eternal state that just you can never get out of, but rather that loneliness is an invitation for you to go out and befriend others. It functions as a check engine light for our human connection, essentially, reminding us to go out and befriend others and to have that sense of community to support us. And even just giving people some really good practical next steps too on how to kind of assess the current levels of their spiritual intimacy with their other friends. Like, are they really, really close to them, or are they kind of more shallow and casual, and trying to outline steps of how you can get closer? Because for a lot of people, they don't realize this. If you want to have deeper friendships, because loneliness doesn't come from being friendless. That certainly does happen when you have no friends at all. But actually, where loneliness really comes up is when you don't have connection with those around you. When there's a part of you that's not fully understood, there's others who just aren't willing to connect beyond just the work relationships or just the surface level conversation about the weather with your neighbors when you happen to actually pull in at the driveway at the same time, if we even do that. So it's been striking a lot of really good conversations for people to kind of rethink how the relationships work, and and hopefully to strengthen those bonds and go deeper in a lot of ways.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you found regarding like the dangers of this, or remaining in the loneliness side of things? Like,
Mm,
because again, I mean, I know there's times where, taking some time away, being a little secluded sometimes may not be as bad, but like, when is it okay? Now that's too much.
yeah. So loneliness and aloneness are not the same, right? That's an important distinction. Some people actually feel the most connected when they're alone, and some others feel the most lonely when they're in a crowd or when they're around people who don't get them, right? So it's loneliness is actually the subjective feeling of not having your relational needs met, and that looks different for you. That looks different for me. For me, I love having a bunch of surface level connections with everybody. Casey likes having her five, digging deep with her five, and if I were to relate like Casey, I would be sucked dry, from the relational standpoint. Um, so, and aloneness is even different from solitude. Like, we need to have that time by ourselves to refuel, kind of re-engage with ourselves in the world, and then go back out into community. Whereas loneliness, like, it's that sense where something's off. You're basically the gas in your relationship tank is getting low, and you need to fuel that up again. And when it goes unchecked for too long, I mean, the effects are astonishing. Um, it increases your levels of anxiety and the likelihood of depression. Even like deaths of despair, like suicide, almost always have correlations with loneliness. It also increases irritability, anger issues, addiction. So what some people do is when they feel these feelings, they wouldn't peg it as loneliness and needing to go out and find some better friends. They might fuel it with food or with pornography or any other kind of things like that. So it's more likely to increase all those things, and all around it'll lessen your immune systems, because loneliness puts you in this self preservation mode where it pumps a lot of cortisol into your mind, into your body. So you're always kind of on this hyper awareness of any potential dangerous social threats out there, because it's trying to protect yourself. It's basically, it's your survival instinct saying you're by yourself in the woods, watch out for danger. Right. So you're constantly on edge. And so with all of those hormones pumping through your body, that's why you're going to be way more anxious, way more irritable, way more stressed. And therefore, get this, the lonelier you are, it's also very possible that you might be more skeptical of others, even if they have good intentions to befriend you. And so then you become someone who's not even pleasant to be around, making others not want to be friends with you, fulfilling your prophecy, your self-fulfilling prophecy that, man, no one wants to be friends with me, they're all bad people, and you just get stuck in this vortex of loneliness and you can't get out of it. It's bonkers. And it impacts like your sleep quality. It impacts your it increases likelihood of heart disease, dementia. All of this stuff is connected with loneliness, which is just insane, right? So just as God says in Genesis chapter 2, when he looks at Adam and says, it is not good for the man to be alone, the science backs that claim up. It is not good for us to be alone, for us to be lonely for extended periods of time. So again, loneliness is actually, psychologists actually deem it as the check engine light for your social connection. I said that. But what do a lot of us do when that check engine light pops up on our dashboard? We question if the light's even legit, right? We're like, oh, the dashboard's what's broken. I don't need to go get that fixed. So you keep driving it, completely ignorant of what's going on under the hood until all of a sudden your engine explodes and it's too late, and now you have way more damage that you have to pick up. So that's what loneliness is meant to be. It's supposed to be that reminder to dive into those social connections. And if you don't get it, it could lead to all sorts of other issues and hangups down the road.
Oh man. So if someone is in this place, like, I mean, I don't know if you want to give too much because you probably got this all mapped out in your book. But if not, I don't know, maybe it's book 2. And so but no, if you could say maybe like 1 or 2 practical things, like if someone is listening to you now and they're like, man, that sounds like me. Like, what would you tell that person? Like, their first step could be to get out of that situation.
Yes. So many things that I could tell you. I'll just shoot off the hip and see what comes out. So first, know that there is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way. In fact, I've heard several counselors say that they would be out of jobs if people just had more better friends. So if you feel anxious, depressed, irritable, like there's just a lot of chaos in your life right now, like truly do a deep dive and assess, how are your social connections right now? How is your sense of community? How are your relationships? Do you have someone that you can regularly connect with and communicate your deepest needs with? Because if you don't, and you never realize that could actually be the causing driver for those things, that's really great. And counseling is amazing and can certainly help in a lot of that stuff. But chances are also really good you're not just going to have a hangout on a Saturday afternoon with your counselor to have them over for grilling out brats or something in your backyard. Like we also need all of those connections too. So acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with you. Second, your loneliness is an invitation into friendship. And then third, it takes the hard work and the courage of initiating a connection. I mean, that sounds way too simple to even have to write about it. But I think in our increasingly lonely culture where we are so used to just the instant write a comment on social media and call that good and connection, you're connected, congratulations. No, you're not. You sent words. It's way harder, but way more valuable for you to cut down on the screen time and increase on the face time. 2 words, face, space, time, for all of our iPhone users out there, at least. Reach out. Is there someone in your sphere, maybe like someone at church that you've connected with? Is there someone in a small group, or is there someone even at work where you're like, I think there's some good potential there for us to connect on a deeper level? And just simply reach out and ask like, hey, would you be willing to grab lunch? And we get anxious about that because like, what if they say no? What if they think I'm needy? What if they think I have all these problems? You have no evidence of that. What do you got to lose, right? Because chances are also really good that person's feeling the same thing. Because I think the other greater issue in this problem of this loneliness epidemic is people just shoot past our loneliness and our needs for connection because we're afraid to initiate. We need people to be the brave ones to initiate that social connection. When I write about this in the book, when I had just moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota for my first pastorate, I was 23 years old as a resident apprentice pastor, basically. So I'm desperate for friends. And while some people, might maybe get shy, they clam up, they don't talk to anybody, I just get really obnoxious when I'm desperate for new friends. So we were over at a party with a bunch of other young adults in the church that I'd kind of started to get to know. And so again, I'm hungry for connection. I'm desperate for friendships. So I thought I would make a really great first impression by telling anti-jokes. Have you ever heard of anti-jokes, Miracle?
No.
No? All right. I got a couple. So I had like 3 or 4 of my, newfound surface level friends here. And I say like, hey guys, you want to hear some anti-jokes? What's green and has wheels? What do you think, Miracle?
I don't know.
Grass. I lied about the wheels.
Ah!
Right. What's red and bad for your teeth? A brick. Like,
Yeah.
I did that for 5 minutes, just calling those kind of jokes that just like where the punchlines are designed to fall dead. I thought they were so funny. I didn't find out till later that one of my good friends, Damien, who was there, hated my guts. He hated my guts for that. I left the worst first impression on everybody. They're like, Jake, we wanted you to shut up after the second one. I didn't find that out till like just a few years ago, but I kept telling him, I blew my first impression. But for the short time that I was there, Damien seemed like a really cool guy that I wanted to connect with, and so I reached out to him, was like, hey, can we grab coffee sometime? And we actually grabbed some Vietnamese food instead, and then grabbed some coffee afterwards. And thank goodness he gave me a second chance, because Damien became one of my best friends. Had I not taken that first step, of just asking, could we go out somewhere and just get to know each other some more? That wouldn't have happened. So thank goodness, he gave me that second chance. And I only share that to say, like, the power of that invitation goes such a long way. And then being consistent and showing up, for small groups, it takes an average of 8 to 12 hours of FaceTime before you can really start to open up. So if you're in a small group in a church, like that first semester, that first 12 weeks is supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to shift through all of the surface level discussions so that you can finally connect on a deeper level. There's all those things. But again, if you really want to deepen your friendships with others, though, so say you're making some connections here, you're hanging out, you're doing some fun things outside of your typical, Sunday morning gathering, your weekly small group, or your workplace. The number one way to deepen your friendships is to share the deepest parts of yourself. To deepen your friendships, you need to be willing to share the deeper parts of yourself, because it's through those intimate parts of your life that are hard for anybody else to know about. When you can unearth those for people to see, it creates trust, and trust strengthens our bonds, and therefore you're more likely to do it over again. Confession and vulnerability and sharing those parts is so important for us to solidify those bonds. And in a culture right now where we are terrified to share about our weakest selves, what if people stab us in the back? What if they spread it online? Like, what if they think that I'm, a goon, or I have all these problems? And that's possible, they might. But one of my favorite definitions is of friendship. One of my favorite definitions of friendship is that a friend is someone who knows all about you and loves you anyway, but choose to still be there. And when you can get those friends in your life where you can consistently talk about those things, in addition to the, hanging out with, for your play dates with your kids and for the grill outs in your backyard or whatever, what have you, they're still there through it all. That's really going to increase your sense of intimacy with them. And if you're following Jesus at the same time, that's all the better for you to be able to have that mutual foundation on the love of God too. So man, that's, I could go on and on, but that's just kind of the basic level of it. Some next steps that you could take.
I appreciate you sharing that. Hopefully that will encourage and inspire people in what they should do, especially if they are in that position. And yeah, man. So I know we can sit here and chat all day, but I know you probably got other relationships, friendships, pastor things to do,
I know the list never ends. Never ends.
So I mean, is there anything else you want to share with us before you go?
No, I'm just so grateful to be here, Miracle. Thanks so much for you and the work that you're doing. And like I said, you all need friends. I mean, that's what literally, like, we need friends to function at our best. And so if anyone's interested in the book or learning more, you can find it on Amazon. Just search for You Need Friends by Jake Thurston. And you can find it, or you can go to www.youneedfriends.com. You can read up a little bit about the book. You can find the links there, as well as some other teachings that I've done in the past, other links to podcasts and things. If people want to learn more, you can connect with me there.
Awesome. We're looking forward to see what else you come out with, and you're welcome back anytime.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Miracle. It was a joy.
Thank you so much for watching the GSL Talk Show, and thank you to Dr. All right, Jake Thurston for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and go get his book and check out the rest of his endeavors. Have a good night.